Let's get one uncomfortable thing out of the way first. Most of what you've been sold about speed reading is, scientifically speaking, nonsense. The promise that you can triple your reading speed with zero loss of comprehension, it doesn't hold up. Cognitive psychologists who've reviewed decades of research keep landing on the same conclusion. There's a fundamental trade-off between speed and accuracy. The faster you go, the less precisely you understand what you read. So those apps that flash one word at a time to eliminate eye movement, turns out eye movements are only about 10% of your total reading time, and stopping yourself from glancing back to reread actually makes comprehension worse, not better. So is it hopeless? Are you stuck at your current pace forever? No. There are legitimate ways to read faster and get through your material more efficiently. They're just not the magic bullet tricks. So in this video, 5 methods that actually work. Let's get into it. Method 1, read often, read widely, and read challenging material. This is the deceptively simple one and a little inconvenient because it's not a hack, it's practice. I dug into the research for this, including the work of Elizabeth Schotter, a psychologist who studied reading extensively. And the picture the science paints is this. Skilled readers already read pretty fast, roughly 200 to 400 words per minute. And what separates the fast end from the slow end isn't some trick they learned. It's that they have tons of reading experience, a large vocabulary, command of the language, and deep background knowledge they can apply to whatever's in front of them. Which tells you what you probably already suspected. Reading is a skill. Like any skill worth building, it gets faster with time and practice. The more you read, especially difficult material that stretches you, the bigger your vocabulary gets, and the more your brain can chunk and predict, which is what actually lets you read faster without losing comprehension. There's no shortcut around putting in the reps. The reps are the method. Method 2, kill boredom and daydreaming. Here's a problem I have, and maybe you do too. When I read nonfiction, I genuinely want to absorb the book, but I'll either get bored or, more often, one sentence will send me tumbling down a mental rabbit hole, and suddenly I've read 2 pages while thinking about something completely unrelated. So I've got 2 fixes for that. The first I call an interest link. The idea is to deliberately connect what you're reading to something you already care about. If you're slogging through a dry economics chapter but you love sports, find the link. Think about how supply and demand sets ticket prices, or how a team's salary cap works. Tying new material to an existing passion gives your brain a reason to stay engaged instead of wandering off. The second is to find your optimal reading spot through a bit of experimentation. For me, a comfy armchair is a death trap. I daydream constantly the second I sit in one. So I do most of my reading outside or at a desk where I stay sharp. Your ideal environment might be totally different, but you won't know until you test a few. Where you read affects how well you read more than people give it credit for. Method 3, pre-read before you read. This one's mainly for textbooks or any reading where you already know or can guess the kind of information you're trying to pull out. Before you actually start reading, you pre-read. Skim the chapter headings, glance at the table of contents, scan the bold and formatted terms throughout, and flip to the end to look at the vocabulary list and the review questions. Why? Because doing this primes your brain to notice the important stuff when you do your real read. You've essentially given yourself a map of where the treasure is buried before you start digging. And that map is what makes the next method possible. Method 4, skim strategically. This is going to sound like it contradicts everything I just said about comprehension, but stick with me. Yes, skimming means lower comprehension. But here's the reality. The amount of text in front of you is almost always way more than the amount you actually need to lodge in your brain. In fact, the research backs this up. Effective skimming, prioritizing the informative parts and gliding over the rest, genuinely works when you're after the gist. So, skimming is an essential tool for getting through a mountain of reading when the fine details aren't all critical. My favorite version is a technique from Cal Newport called pseudo-skimming. Here's how it works. You go through the chapter skimming the paragraphs, hunting for the important ones, the ones carrying the main ideas, key concepts, the stuff you actually need to remember. When you find one of those load-bearing paragraphs, you slow down and read it properly for comprehension. For everything else, a skim is plenty. And a great trick for spotting the important paragraphs fast. Pay attention to the first and last sentences of each one, because those usually telegraph what the whole paragraph contains. You're reading thoroughly where it matters and lightly where it doesn't, which is exactly how efficient readers operate. Method 5, and honestly the most important one. But wait, before I give it to you, I want to challenge the entire premise of this video. We've been talking about reading speed as the goal, but should it be? I think the real metric isn't reading speed at all. It's learning speed. Here's my worry. A lot of people who want to speed read are really chasing the ability to say, I read 3 books this week. And that's the wrong motivation. Reading isn't an achievement to rack up. Goodreads is not a high score list, and your bookshelf is not a trophy case. Speed reading quietly tricks you into treating your brain like one of those arcade ticket machines. Just feed the information in faster and faster and watch the count go up. But brains don't work like that. Cramming words in at high speed isn't the same as learning, and obsessing over how quickly you got through a book skips the part that actually matters. Pausing to think about what you read, chewing on it, comparing it against your existing view of the world. So here's the final method, and it's the one that actually raises your learning speed. When you read, do something with what you just learned. Take notes. Write a quick summary in your own words. Connect it to what you already believe and notice where it challenges that. Use it to make an actual decision. All of this helps you encode the information far more deeply, which means you have to reread less, which means you genuinely get through material faster over time. That's the goal that was hiding behind read faster the whole time. Not speed for its own sake, retention. So those are the 5. Build the underlying skill by reading widely. Beat boredom with interest links and a better environment. Pre-read to prime your brain. Skim strategically with pseudo-skimming. And above all, do something with what you read so it actually sticks. Ultimately, though, it comes down to your priorities. And here's the most honest tip I can give you. If you want to read more, the single best move is to close this video and go read. Then do it again tomorrow. Make it a habit. That beats every trick on this list. If this was helpful, hit the like button to support the channel and let me know your own reading tips down in the comments. If you want a new video every week on studying smarter, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.